welcome to the Tower of David Jerusalem Museum. I'm Rose Gינוסר. I am I forgot what I was called. I'm the chief editor, that's what I'm called, of the exhibition. And I also have worked many years in the museum in many different kinds of fields. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Nעמי, who is here representing Local Projects. And for those of you who may not know, Local Projects is one of the leading design firms in the world. And we have been lucky enough to be able to collaborate with them, with Jake Barton, who is the founder of Local Projects, and with Nעמי, who is the executive project director of Local Projects. We were lucky to be able to collaborate with them on a few projects. They have actually done projects for the best museums in the world. They completely designed the 9/11 Museum. They done work with the Guggenheim in Bilbao, also the Guggenheim in New York, with the MoMA, they've designed the Museum of the City of New York, the Cleveland Museum of Art. It goes on and on and on. And so when it came time for us to talk about a timeline, which we saw as the centerpiece and the anchor of the permanent exhibition, it was obvious to us that we had to turn to Local Projects. So I introduce you to Nעמי, who is going to tell us what the design concept was like and how it was to collaborate with us.
Thank you. We're going to go very quietly here. Let me know as we go if you can hear me. I'm going to try and speak loud enough, but not overpowering the other conversation that's happening. Thank you so much, Rose. Really my pleasure to be here and to be with you tonight. These kinds of projects take huge numbers of collaborators to pull off at a level that this institution has pulled this off, both from the institution as well as from great Israeli partners, many of whom are here today, one of whom was our collaborator and partner, Adam Feinberg from Playground Studio. Hello.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate that and giving us this opportunity. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that collaboration process looked like. So today, for the next 15 minutes, while I have your attention, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you first to the Sands of Time timeline, just walk you through the basic navigation of this piece. Once I do that, I'm going to actually open up the curtains a little bit and speak to how did we get here? What sometimes can seem like very obvious solutions, really the success is realized from having a really great creative brief, great strategy, and then being able to deliver a concept that frames up that strategy. And it doesn't end there. From there, being able to work with local producers and creative developers who then helped us to bring this realization forward. So we'll talk a little bit about that. A few observations that I've had the pleasure of having watching visitors try to use this program over the last couple of days here in the museum. And then if we have time at the end, which we will, we're going to invite you all up to play with the piece itself. So with that, welcome to the Sands of Time. One of the things, and I'm just going to be using these canvases here, when we started to design and develop the Sands of Time timeline, visitors are going to enter and arrive at the museum once the new entrance is created, straight through that door. So one of the first things that they're going to see here from this piece is a timeline that begins with the first station, 3,300 years at the very beginning of the development of the city of Jerusalem, city of Jerusalem, all the way up to the state of Israel, 1948 current era. And this is going to just provide an anchor in time of that 5,000 years of history marked in 12 distinct chapters. As visitors start to walk through, the very first thing that they're going to see, and early in the morning especially, this particle system representing the sands of time that allow era after era to evolve of the city as the city evolves under different rulers of different moments in its history. And for each of the chapters, the actual symbol that we've established here then gets repeated as a navigation guide throughout the rest of the experience. In addition, the depth of the layers here is that each name of Jerusalem is written in and as the ruling power of that particular time. So just in that attract state and moment, you're able to start to get a sense of what were these key moments, this key era here. Once visitors arrive, or they decided and they're intrigued to start to touch and play with the wall itself, the wall opens up for a carousel. And the carousel really allows us here in the British Mandate period and visitors to interact with the wall to have a much deeper exploration of very key moments in that chapter of the development of the city of Jerusalem. So deeper dives, very specific assets related to very poignant moments within each of those chapters. One of the challenges in this, of course, is about how to deliver and create a framework that's taking a long and complex history and allowing it to be explored in very specific sort of bite-sized moments, making and allowing and giving visitors opportunity to bring their own curiosity to this. Another mode of exploration as visitors start to look through, if this is too much, some people like to look at very specific pieces, other people might just like to watch a movie. And this was something that was debated back and forth, was in and was out. And as we were able to see, and luckily with the realization of the piece by Playground, this came back in, and the wonderful development of just very simple overviews of films that help to contextualize that specific era of time of the British Mandate as an overview. If it's a little bit too much to look at all of the assets, or if you've watched this first and then you get curious and you want to explore more about a specific one because you're anchored in time, you can do that. At the same time, some visitors might like to start with a geographic orientation of the city. They might already know a lot about the British Mandate, and they just want to see a map. What did the city of Jerusalem look like at that moment? And what were some key features of the city? What was being built at that time within the city? And starting to, again, not overwhelm visitors, but allowing for very specific moments of exploration. Maps are not easy. Maps take a lot of time to develop and get right in terms of the curatorial piece. So again, something that seems simple and resolved in a city, especially as complex as Jerusalem, takes a lot of thought about what are the right maps to have and what are the right elements. And the museum and the production team was very wonderful at helping to get to very specific solutions for that. At the same time, another way to navigate and start to contextualize this specific era that this program offers is a contextualization of, okay, so the British Mandate was happening in the city of Jerusalem. What else was happening around the world at that time? And why that's significant in terms of pedagogical development is that a lot of times history is really taught in schools very regionally, very specific geographies that are taught. And even if you're learning about the British Mandate period, you might know a lot about it, understanding what is happening, and not just from a Eurocentric perspective, also what is happening in India at that time, what is happening in the United States at that time, what is happening in Europe at that time, helps to inspire a different opportunity for curiosity that helps to contextualize both the city of Israel, the city of Jerusalem within the larger trends and moments of that particular time. So with that sort of offers people a number of ways to use their own curiosity to start to explore a particular period. Now you might ask, what if I want to now go and explore a different period, and there's somebody using the other stations, because this is a public space, visitors are coming and going in terms of the complexity of it. That is where the timeline view offers an individual flexible navigation system, really like a timeline. So from this one moment in time, perhaps as you were exploring the British Mandate, you decided, wait a second, how did the city get started again? What was that very first era? And you can really use this as your time machine to travel back in time, 3,300 to 3,300 BCE and start that same navigational journey again here through all of those same kinds of layers, looking at how did the city look like at that particular time, or again, watching a video. So with that, how did we get here? That's the nature and that's the taxonomy of the user experience of this particular piece. So Local Projects, again, is a studio that is really focused at the intersection of architecture and technology, not for technology's sake, but to use technology and design as a platform for creating new methods and new means of storytelling and visitor engagement. We actually started our relationship, as Rose was saying, before the timeline piece about 6 years ago, working on a variety of other projects. So when this moment happened where within the development of the larger exhibition program had the opportunity of a specific timeline, we already had enough of a relationship going that we could very easily, even though by that time COVID had happened and we were in a global pandemic and our studio is in New York City, we had the ability to continue to collaborate with Rose and the Tower of David's curatorial team to start unpacking the creative brief that they gave us. And so the big creative brief from the institution for this piece was also not simple. It had a number of complex demands to it. It needed to be something that both created a big wow moment, was a not to be missed contextual framing moment when you walked into the museum, but also offer a deep dive opportunity. It needed to be visitor led and interactive, not passive. It needed to work for groups of people as well as individuals. It needed to work for many language-based groups, and specifically it needed to be expressed in 3 languages, as it can easily be toggled between in terms of Arabic, English, and Hebrew. It needed to be able to serve really as a platform for teachers and school groups as well as tour guides to make it their own and start to be a flexible system where it could continue to evolve and connect and find new ways of meeting within it. And lastly, it needed to be really beautiful. And within its beauty, it needed to start to fit into, play off of the gorgeous design by the architects that you'll see here, Kimmel Eschkelot, the wonderful conceptual and exhibition design by the DeLange studio, and fit in with this vernacular of all of these other media programs and graphic systems and sort of help to anchor and bring that all together. So that was a lot of the conversation that we went into within that strategy, then developing this creative concept as the realized solution over a number of months together. Once that concept was developed, and as you're seeing realized here, we, through the museum, were able to partner with spectacular local Israeli production technologists and designers to actually manifest and realize and produce this piece. And here today we have from Playground, we have Adam Feinberg, who is has done, and his team, spectacular work in realizing this very complex piece of media. It's not always all completely finished and buttoned up at the end of concept. It takes a little bit more to get there, more than a little bit more. In those conversations, new questions come up, and we are thrilled to see the resolution. Over the last 2 days, I was able to have some observations of people using this program. And at the beginning, when you're creative and have a creative brief and you come up with a strategy, really the proof is in the pudding in the end in terms of how is it working, how are visitors using it. And a couple of observations happened during that time that I thought were really delightful. So one, I watched an older person walk from the beginning and the end of the piece and just turn on the videos from each of the eras. And what he created for himself was his own spatial timeline, just of these simple narrative pieces that explained for him in a very simple way that 5,000 years of history. And that was enough for him, and he was delighted. Another couple started to use each screen side by side of each other, and they realized pretty quickly within the map view that if they each touched a map at the same time, what they were going to start to get was the ability to see different moments of time next to each other and see that evolved map of Israel starting to play out in a larger way together. I also had the opportunity of talking with a tour guide who was here meticulously going through asset by asset by asset as he was using this to start to frame his tour that he was developing and writing. And the last thing that was the most delightful moment of surprise, and I'm going to see if it starts to come up here, are these what were called hidden moments of surprise. And these are these delightful sprites, little spirits, and Adam's team worked really meticulously on making these really joyful. And if we're lucky, one was going to come up and we might start to see them. Here's one of them. And you can see here the Balfour Declaration, and here's another one. And as soon as a child started to discover these, they started to run from moment to moment and started to release these key token and key moments to come up. Collaboration, Adam, who manifested this piece, we are at the end. We just want to say thank you so much for being here. Please come and play with the Sound of Power.